So continuing on from our previous level where we were looking at the blues riff, we're now going to extend the blues riff. Yes, we're going to add another note to it. So take your basic E5 power chord, add your third finger to play an E6. Okay, you should be familiar with that. That's what we did previously. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to include our little finger to play a seventh chord. So we're going to have E5. Okay, that's just holding the open position power chord. Add your third finger. Obviously keep your first finger fixed. Add your third finger on the A string, that's E6. And now add your little finger on the 5th fret. That's E7. So you can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so this is a whole bar sequence. You probably wouldn't play this on the turnaround part of the blues because the number of beats that you play each chord on. But when you're playing the chords for longer, for a whole bar, for example, you can play this rhythm. So you'll play 1 and on the E5. 2 and on the E6, 3 and on the E7, and then back to your third finger on the 4th fret of the A to play the E6 for 4 and. Remember the swing rhythm. Okay, that's a really cool sounding riff. And again, it's getting more and more blues sounding. Using your little finger, you have to take care a little bit with your hand position. You know, it's not really wise to use second and thirds, especially in that position. It's such an uncomfortable stretch. So get used to adding your little finger. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to transpose that riff. In other words, we're going to shift it to the next chord. So we're going to drop down, play our A5. Then add our third finger for A6, and then add our little finger on the 5th fret of the D. So you've got an open position power chord, third finger on the 4th fret D for A6, little finger on the 5th fret of the D, and that gives us A7th. Okay, so let's just practice through the riff in A. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now moving on to the B chord. Remember that we invert the power chord because of that big stretch. And if you had to do the stretch of the 7th chord, that's a big old stretch. So we're going to play the 4th fret of the D and the G with our first finger. That's still a B5 power chord, but we just inverted it. So you're going to play 2 strums on that. Add your third finger on the 6th fret of the D whilst playing the G string still. That gives us a B6th. And then add your little finger on the 7th fret of the D, and that's your B7th. And then back to the B6th. So you get... It's kind of pretty much the same as when you play it in A, but all you're doing is moving up by a whole tone. But because the root note, the position of that, we don't need to play that. The root note is on the G string, but again, when you're playing over the backing track, all the other instrumentation is going to be giving you that nice, strong B tonality to play over. So this just makes it a little bit easier to be able to play the blues in E by just fretting the B5 and the B6 and the B7 in this way. So just one more time on the B chord. Here we go. B5, B6, B7, B6. Okay, so now, as ever, we are going to practice through this. If you can play along with me, then even better. If it takes you a few goes to get used to these chords, don't worry about it. Work at your own pace. Enjoy learning. Don't feel pressured into playing along with me straight away. Do a little bit of work on this and then come back and see if you can jam along with me before you move on. So we're going to play 2 bars of E5 to E6 to E7, that complete extended riff. Let's just call that the extended blues riff. Okay, that extended blues riff, it lasts for 1 bar. So we're going to play our extended blues riff in E for 2 bars. Then we're going to play our extended blues riff in A for 2 bars. Okay, but you play that twice, and then we'll play our extended blues riff in B for 2 bars. Okay, so again, repeating that. So let's put all of that together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you can loop round these ideas as many times as you like, but then don't forget you're going to be playing this to the structure of a 12-bar blues. But just bear in mind, when you get to those fast changes, you can't add the 7th, so you'd be using the our regular blues riff for that section. But again, when you start putting this all together, we end up mixing all these riffs up anyway. But for the time being, just, pay attention to getting the structure of the blues down, and just make sure when you get to those fast changes, swap back to the original blues riff when you're practicing over. But again, you'll have all of the tabs. You can see exactly what I mean.